Iktomi is a trickster, okay? But yesterday I told a story about how he became a trickster. He wasn't always a trickster. Before he was known by another name, and he was known for his wisdom. But something happened that had all kinds of consequences. And actually, some of them consequences were very, very, very beautiful. It led to other situations. And some of the consequences involved the development of female cycle as well as the male cycle. And a lot of people don't know there's a male cycle. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Again, because of the Christianization process that happened on the reservations, that kind of information was kept away. It was suppressed because, remember, we were weak-minded back then. The priests were telling us that stuff is from the devil, because it conflicts with the Bible. In the Bible, it says man has dominion over the earth and plants and animals and beasts of the field and the water and it also includes women. That man has dominion over women and children. And Lakota Star knowledge is not like that. Lakota Star knowledge, the men and women they both have their own cycles. Neither one is more important than the other, and they complement each other. But neither one is more important. Okay, they're both complement each other, and so we are neither matriarchal or patriarchal. We are something different. So today, the majority of Lakota people will say that we are matriarchal. And the reason why they say that is because of that brainwashing process that I talked about earlier. Now we're dualistic, so we think like dualistic people, but really we're not. I mean, our ancestors were not matriarchal. Okay, they were something completely different. So this story talks about the development of that. And like I said, this is like Iktomi. This guy before he was known as Iktomi, he was a wonderful guy, but he made a mistake, and it was costly, and it was a selfish thing. He got selfish, and part of that resulted in a lot of things, and that led to other situations. And some of those other situations were really nice things. So it shows you that even if you make a mistake, don't worry. The world is not over yet. Yeah, you cannot destroy the earth. She's a living being that cannot be destroyed. We need her. She doesn't need us. That's another story. Okay, where we learned that. Anyway, so the world is going to be here. Don't worry. Just like I said, make the best of that. Learn from it as much as you can. Express the emotions first, and then start learning from it, and it'll lead to other things that are going to be really nice. Okay, so it can lead to something wonderful. So don't worry. Yeah, that's what we learn from this. But as far as this guy himself, he's transformed, and his name is changed to Iktomi. And from this point on, he has that tendency to try to trick people, and he wants to, if you are not living in this healthy way, then you will your tendency to fall victim to his tricks are greatly increased. When you don't take care of yourself in a healthy way, you become unhealthy, and that increases your chances on becoming a victim to Iktomi-like invitations, kind of thing, opportunities that you don't think it out, and you end up doing something based purely on emotion. I'll give you a little example of how Iktomi is. One time, Iktomi, he was married to a girl who was really young, and she had a couple of kids for him, and they seemed to be living an okay life. And next thing, Iktomi he fell in love with her mother. Yeah, and so he started to meet her mother in the bushes. They'd be kissing, and, doing what couples do in bushes. and and then he would he would say to his wife, he would say, "I'm gonna go out hunting," he said. So then she would say, "Okay." So he would take off, and then he would meet his wife's mother, in some valley where there's a lot of trees, and they would be doing their business there. Then they would be there all day. Yeah. Then he would come back, and then he would say, "Oh, Jesus, really? I couldn't even find anything," he said. So his wife would say, "Well, maybe that's okay." He said, "We have food. Maybe you can try again tomorrow." So Iktomi would say, "Oh, okay." Off guy. And so then he would go, secretly meet his mother-in-law again the next day. And he was starting to really fall for his mother-in-law. So he decided, he was saying to her, he said to her, I want to spend the rest of my life with you." And she said, "Yeah, me too." And then so Iktomi said, "Well, what shall we do about your daughter?" So the mother-in-law said, "I don't know." So Iktomi was sitting there going, "I got an idea," he said. "Wait for me here tomorrow." He said, "The only way we can do this is we have to move away. We have to move, and we have to live, someplace else by ourselves. Are you okay with that?" So the mother-in-law said, "Yeah, as long as I'm with you." And Iktomi said, "Okay, so we'll do that." Okay, so then Iktomi said, "So meet me here tomorrow, tomorrow evening. Then we'll leave." So the mother-in-law said, "Okay." So Iktomi went back. He got close to his teepee, or his wife's teepee, and he starts staggering. Yeah, starts staggering, and he's had his mouth wide open, and slobber just coming out of his mouth, and he was like, "Oh, oh," and it's like that walking in. Yeah, he walked inside the teepee, and he fell on the floor, and he said, "Oh, I think I ran into the enemy out there." He said, They really beat me up. Oh, I think I'm gonna die. Oh." So his wife went over there and was holding his head while he was laying down. "Oh," he threw his head back. "Oh, I died," he said. He stopped breathing. And so she was like, "Oh no. What am I gonna do?" She said. "I just made all this soup, and I saved a special piece of meat for my husband, and now he's dead. And it's just about done now because it smells pretty good." So Iktomi went, "Oh, I'm not dead yet," he said. "Oh, can I have some of that soup? Maybe that'll help me," he said. So, "Yeah, right away," she said. So she gave him a bowl of soup, and he ate the meat and drank up the soup. Then he threw himself back on the ground. "Oh, now I died again," he said. He laid there. So his wife was sad. And, "What am I gonna do?" she said. Like attracts like, yeah. She didn't even question that. Yeah. So then he after that, she told people her husband just died. So everybody was like, "Oh, okay." So they put him in the teepee, because by that another teepee, yeah, because that time it was nighttime, and They put guards around the teepee. Said they'll deal with it, the body, the next day. So Iktomi snuck out. Yeah, he snuck out of there, and he put there was some rocks and some stuff inside that teepee. So he put that inside the buffalo robe to make it look like he was laying in there, because that's what they wrapped his body in. So he managed to sneak out of the teepee, and he went to go meet his mother-in-law in that valley. And sure enough, she was waiting. And so they proceeded to head out west. Yeah. So they were gone for quite some time, and she had about 18 kids for him. Yeah. And and gee, these kids were just naughty. Yeah. And this is Iktomi, so he's not a good parent. And the mother-in-law, it goes to show you she's kind of not a good parent either. I mean, she's going out with her own son-in-law, yeah? So, after the 18th kid, these kids were getting on Iktomi's nerves. So he would try to take off, but they still followed him, yeah? They no matter where he tried to take off, they would still follow him. So finally, he was like, "Oh man, I need help. These are a lot of kids." So his mother-in-law said, "Well, if I was with my sisters, they could help me." She said. So my Iktomi got this idea. "I know," he said. "Let's go ahead and go back, and so your sisters can help you." And then she said, "Okay, but what are we going to do about my daughter?" And he said, "Don't worry, I have an idea," he said. So they said, "Okay." So she was happy, yeah, because they're going to go back to their camp they came from. So it took them a long time. They traveled many, many, many days. Then they got close to the camp, and they were in that valley where they were meeting, yeah, 15 years ago or so. And so they what do you call it? He told them to wait. Yeah, he told his mother-in-law and his children to wait. And so I'm going to go prepare them, because that way, they won't be shocked, surprised. So she said, "Okay." So they were waiting, and these kids were just naughty, and they couldn't sit still or anything. So he tied them down, yeah, to a tree. To make sure they stayed. Then he went back, and before he got there, he looked pretty rough, yeah. 18 kids, so he looked pretty rough. So he went to the camp, and boy, people were like shocked to see him. And his wife was really happy. Yeah, "Oh, my husband's returned," she said. And Iktomi said, "Wait," he said, "I have to meet with the chiefs," he said. So he went and he talked to the chiefs, and he said, "Yeah," he said, "many years ago," he said, my mother-in-law was captured by the Crow Indians, and I knew my wife would be really sad, so I went to go look for her. And I went by myself because I didn't want to take the other warriors with me, because they have to hunt to feed the people. So I took it upon myself to go search for my mother-in-law," he said. So the chiefs were like, how, and saying that in approval, I mean. And so I said, "Yeah, it took me a long time. I finally found her. And the different tribes were passing her on to different other tribes. And it took me a long time, but I finally found her. And I managed to capture some of the enemies too. So she was being held captive by some Indians that are really small," he said. And I found her in the land where the cactus are giants," he said. "And it's really hot down there. Nothing grows," he said. "It's really hard land to live on, but I managed to find her, and I captured the enemies that were keeping her prisoner because if I just took her, they might, you know, tell the other enemies, and they'll all come and they'll catch us and kill us. So that I captured the enemies in the village that was keeping her. So the chiefs are like, ho, stay low, they said. That's really good, yeah. And Diana Chanuelo, they were saying. You really did good, they said to him. So I said, okay, so she's over there over the hill in the valley. I have the prisoners tied down, he said. So I'm gonna go get them, he said, and just so I wanted to prepare you, yeah. So you guys get ready to see, so that you won't be shocked. So they said, okay. So then his wife was listening, yes, and she was really happy because her mother, gee, my husband really loves me because he went after my mother too, he said. I mean, he went after searching for my mother after she was captured by the enemies, she said. And so he went after them, he said. Okay, he said, that, you know, he came back and he said, okay, they're ready for us, so now we can go. So he 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 had his kids. They had their hands were tied behind their back, and he is leading them in like dog on a leash. Yeah, his kids were running all over the place. It was really how do you, how do you say that? Nachschnee, yeah. They really don't listen. They're just naughty. And see, Iktomi, he's not a good hunter. Yeah, so his kids are dressed just no good, and their clothes are just made up of leaves and tree bark, and and his mother-in-law, she only had that one dress. Yeah, when they left, so that dress was just in tatters too. And since they have 18 kids, they never have a chance to, you know, brush their hair or anything, so they look ragged. So they came walking into the camp like that and says, "Yeah, here's the enemies that were holding my wife's mother," he said. So everybody was looking, and the men were saying, "Oh, you know, yeah, right." Yeah. They knew that those were Iktomi's kids. Yeah. So they knew that he took off with his mother-in-law. So he so he went back to his wife, and the kids stayed with the mother-in-law, and her sisters helped raise those kids. This guy is really no good, yeah? So that's what happened, yeah? And Iktomi married his mother-in-law. It didn't work. So all you guys out there, don't be getting that idea, yeah? It just goes to show you, why would that lady want to be with her son-in-law? Yeah, I mean, he's not even a good hunter or anything like that. And the fact that, you know, he with his wife, I mean, he 2 times he said he died. Yeah? And she accepted it each time. So it goes to show you, you know, the this kind of man attracts dim-witted women. Do you see what I mean? 18 kids. Jeez, that guy's off. How many years would that be? Yeah, for every 9 months. Yeah, for that to happen. How would I do that? Yeah, would I take 18 times 9 for the pregnancy months? So that would be a total of 162 months of pregnancy. Then divide that by 12. Jeez, 13 and a half years. 18 kids. My goodness. Gee, that's a lot of kids, yeah? Yeah, gee, many crackers. Jeez, and then she just put up with it too, yeah? See, in Lakota tradition, um, you're only supposed to have at the maximum 3 children, and each child is supposed to be spaced at least 2 years apart from the next. The reason why is because this is what is manageable, and also they believe that this makes sure that the children are healthy, and that most importantly, it gives time for the mother to gain her strength, and it really is focusing on the mother here, because 3 babies every 9 months. I mean, that's too much. That's really too much. And also there is another belief that as each child, like when a family has 10 kids, that the ones that are born towards the end, there's something wrong, because of the body, the body of the mother, that it might be getting weak, and that might affect the child's physical development, and body, mind, heart, soul, they're all connected, yeah. So there might be something not right. So that's another reason why. So traditional families, they only had 2, 3 kids, and sometimes they might have 4, but you never saw a Lakota family with 10 kids, for sure. Yeah, back then. So this is that's how it was a long time ago. Then, as I said, earlier, with the reservations becoming Christianized, that remember what I said is that most of the beliefs were declared evil because the priests said they contradict the Bible. That's why. Yeah, in the Bible, there's a verse that says, "Blessed is he with many arrows in his sheath, or his quiver, or is it sheath? I can't remember which term it uses." But that means, I think this is in Isaiah or Ezekiel, or I don't know. It's in the Old Testament anyway. And this is supposed to mean that the more children a man produces, that the more greater his chance is into getting into heaven. I think that's very disrespectful, because it focuses on the man. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the wife. Blessed is he, it says. Yeah, and so it's saying that the more children you have, the more converts you bring to God. This is linear thinking as well. Linear thinking is when you only go in one direction, and you think that the further you go, the better you get. That's linear, okay? So that means if you're, let's say you have 10 points in one line. So if you reach the 10th point, that means you're at the top. So anybody behind you is less than you. So you see it that way. They're less than me. I'm smarter than them. What is that saying? That's duality. Yeah. In the Lakota way, it's not like that. For us, it's more circular. That would be considered non-linear. Like, for example, let's say we have a circle of 10 points. Okay? So when you get to, let's say you get to point 7. Okay? It took you quite some time to get from point 1 to point 7. You've changed. You've developed. You've evolved. You've progressed. So, what we do is we come back. Maybe we go to point 2. Maybe there was something about point 2 we still had a question on. So we come back to point 2, and remember, we see things differently now because we've developed. So when we look at point 2, we're going to see it differently. And we might see something that we didn't see before. So we learned something new from coming back because we've changed. We're not that same person anymore. We're not that same person that we were when we first were at point 2. Now we've grown. We've developed. We see more. So it's good to come back and look at things you've already learned, because you might see something you missed the first time. You missed it because you were not developed yet. Yeah? This is non-linear. And then we might jump from point 7 to point 9 because we have a feeling about something. And it makes us feel certain things. Then we come back to point 7 again, or maybe we come back to point 5 again. You see the non-linear way. That's how it is in the Lakota way. Yeah. So for us, it's not about the more kids we have, the better we get to heaven. That's not what it is for us. Yeah. So so you see the Lakota way of looking at it, non-linear and only having 3-4 kids, that really violates what it says in the Bible. Yeah. So that's why the priest said that our way was evil. And yet we have the story of Iktomi who had 18 kids. This is just not right. Yeah, it's just really, really unhealthy. Some of these kids were neglected because they had to care for the younger ones. And that child neglect, that those children develop emotional problems because of that. You see what I mean? So you see how the churches see things linearly, and they don't even think about how does this affect the children. My God, how does this affect the mother? It's all focusing on the man, how great it makes him. But in the Lakota world, it focuses on everybody. That it's really important for the mother to be strong and the children to have emotional upbringing. In the Lakota way, we have this extended family where you have many mothers and fathers, and they're just as important as your biological mother and father. Yeah, for example, my mother's sisters, those are all my mothers. Yeah, and all their husbands are my fathers. They're all just as important as my mom and dad. The children from those marriages are my brothers and sisters. Okay? Now, my mother's brothers, they cannot be my fathers because that would be incest. Yeah? So my mother's brothers are my uncles. And their wives are my aunties, and their children are my cousins. Okay, that's my mother's side. Now my father's side, since my father is my father, that means his brothers are also my fathers, and their wives are my other mothers, and their children are my other brothers and sisters. Yeah, so look at all the moms and dads from both sides of the family, and all the brothers and sisters too. So all these moms and dads are responsible for our parenting. So there really is no orphans in an ancient traditional family society. My father's sisters would be my aunties, and their husbands my uncles, and their children my cousins. This is a tioshpai, how that works. Yeah. So the whole community is responsible for raising the children, and they raise you so that you learn from your difficulties. So you're developing emotionally. You become emotionally really mature around the age of 15 in the ancient society, both boys and girls. Yeah. But not, so it's focusing on everybody. But in the Bible only focuses on the man. It says, "Blessed is he." If you have all 18 kids, some of them are going to get neglected and they're going to develop emotional problems. And when they grow up and have children, they don't know how to parent because they're not emotionally developed. And like attracts like, so they're going to attract emotionally underdeveloped partners. And they're going to have children. They might have a bunch again because of what the Bible says. And so then next thing you know, it's just generation after generation of underdeveloped emotional people and child neglect and glorification of the man subjugating everything under him. That's duality. So see, this Iktomi story existed before the churches came to Indians. So when Indians first encounter churches and they see these families with 10 kids, and Indians are going, "Geez, they must be crazy to do that. Those poor women. And them children, they're probably, when you leave them alone by themselves with no parental or adult supervision, these children are probably at each other's throats." I'm not saying they're all like that, but their tendency is probably there. There's jealousy there. So that leads to emotional problems. So a traditional Lakota would look at that and say that there's something wrong there. That's not going to work. So the Christian way contradicts our way, and for us it works. And honestly, I don't think Christianity works for the Christians. Christianity does not allow people to develop emotionally, so therefore they go into denial. Most of them probably don't even see that there's a problem. And those who do, they go into denial. And they say things like, "Well, God, just he is, that's the path that he made for me, and it's just up to me to understand it and accept it." Blind faith. That's how they explain it. But in the Lakota way, we know. Yeah. So we have this story of Iktomi having 18 kids. So when we look at these Catholic families and these other Christian families having 8, 12 kids, we go, "Well, that's the Iktomi way." See what I mean? I'm not putting you down if you come from a family of 12 kids. I'm not putting you down. I'm looking at the idea behind it, okay? So if you feel offended, I apologize. That's not the intention. Yeah? The intention is to show you the differences in how they are. Like I said, every day on this show, I'm not saying things to prove anybody or anything wrong, but I'm just giving information that is based on Lakota Star knowledge. And I'm just saying this for you to think about, nothing more. So, you see, these Iktomi stories, they teach us things. And so when Indians, like I said, on the reservation, how we became weak-minded, if you remember that because of that experience, we became weak-minded and we became to accept what these priests were saying. And so the beginning days of the reservation, Indians started doing the same thing. So now you have families with 10, 12 kids, glorifying the man. We really got brainwashed into this. I know I'm related to a family where the grandfather, I should say it like this, the man fell in love with his brother's daughter. This is incest, okay? Um, and so he married his niece when she was what 13 years old, I think, and he was like 30 something. This is not a joke. This really happened in Thunder Butte, South Dakota, Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. And so this they had. I'm not kidding here. This lady had 18 kids. This man was very abusive, and I think his brother was scared of him. So when this man said, "I'm going to marry your daughter," the brothers didn't didn't fight it because he was scared of him. And so this 13-year-old girl started having sex with this guy in his 30s, and the kids started. There was 18 kids. Some of them died because of tuberculosis, but there was too much for them to care for, so they put some in. Some family relatives would take two of them, and other relatives would take three. So you had these kids growing apart, and the kids, they became jealous of each other. Even today they're all old people, yeah, and the ones who are still alive, and they are very jealous of each other. So it really is a good example of how it really does prove um, this Iktomi thing, yeah, and so yeah, so I witnessed it myself. Like these are close relatives of mine. From these people's mother, these guys are my cousins. From their father, they're my aunties and uncles. I'm related to them in two different ways because they're products of incest. Their father and their mother were uncle and niece. Yeah, and it was not distance. This is this is his brother's daughter. Now, in the Lakota way, remember, brothers, in the Lakota Tioshpai way, this is actually his daughter. Yeah, in a traditional Lakota Tioshpai perspective, he married his own daughter and had children from them. And you know what's really odd? Is that these same children, they went and tried to marry their own cousins too, their own close relatives. Yeah? And the children from those children, same thing. I can, top of my head, I can tell you the names of four of, I won't, but I can tell you the names of four of them that married their own cousins, and they're close cousins. They're not distant. First cousins. They married their first cousins. It's just like a tradition. Incest is like a tradition in that family. It's disgusting. Yeah, when I think of it, it really is disgusting. See, something like that would have never happened in the traditional Lakota world. That man that married his own niece, or in the Tioshpai way, his own daughter, that man, if he did that, he would have been taken out of it and banished. He wouldn't be able to do anything like that because of the way the warrior societies worked back then. But when we came to the reservation, the American government no longer recognized warrior societies, and churches came in, and the warrior society concept died because people were becoming Christian. Yeah, sad story. So, you could say, when we came to the reservation, we began to fall under the presence of Iktomi in another form, and now most Indians follow the Iktomi religion of duality. Yeah, this is crazy. 18 kids. My goodness. My goodness. That's selfishness, yeah? That's just pure selfishness. Anyway, I just ask that you think about what I said. Nothing more. Everything I said is based on Lakota Star knowledge. Yeah, and and this same knowledge says that we come back around, and there's no end, and we're always coming back around. So we have no word for goodbye in the Lakota language. Instead, we say until next time, which in our language is Doksha Ake. I wish you good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this, sweet dreams. Have a good meal, have a good walk, have a good nap. And I'll see you tomorrow, yeah? Same time, same place, same t-shirt. No, clean t-shirt and washed face. See, I'm a rapper now. Hule. See, anybody can rap. You don't need to. That's not a talent. Anybody can do that. That's another discussion. Have a good one, everybody. Toksa ake.